The alarm in my helmet was already screaming when I kicked open the cargo bay door. Red light flooded the metal corridor. Behind me, my boots hit the deck hard, and the sound bounced off the cold walls of the alien ship. I had 30 minutes for this inspection, 30 minutes to walk through, sign the papers, and pretend the Velshari were the noble allies the coalition kept telling everyone they were. My name is Ezra Vance. I was a commander in the Terran forces, which is a fancy way of saying I did the jobs no other species in the coalition wanted to do. Humans were the newest members of the great galactic family. They let us in, but they made sure we knew our place. We got the patrol duty, the garbage runs, the polite little inspections of ships, full of smug aliens who looked at us like we were apes in uniforms. That morning I expected another boring walk through, sign the manifest, nod at the captain, get back to my ship. What I got instead changed everything. I smelled it before I saw it, a thick, sour smell like fear baked into metal. The cargo bay was huge and dark, crates stacked to the ceiling, cold mist drifting along the floor, and in the back corner, in a small pod meant for moving livestock, I saw her. She was thin, silver skin, 4 eyes, one of them swollen shut. Her arms were bound behind her with thin glowing cords that hummed every time she breathed. On her collarbone, burned into the skin, was a mark I knew from my training, a broken circle, the exile sign of the Velshari royal house. I stopped walking. I felt my heart slow down the way it always did before something bad happened. Commander Vance, the voice behind me was smooth like oil on water. Captain Threvas of the Velshari. He glided into the bay on his long legs, his silver robes brushing the floor. I see you have wandered off the inspection route. This area is not part of your duty. Who is she? I asked. I did not turn around. A domestic matter, he said, his voice never changed. Nothing that concerns your kind. My kind. I said it slow. I let the words sit there. Then I walked closer to the pod. The young woman flinched. 3 of her eyes followed me. The 4th one, the swollen one, stayed closed. I crouched down so I was at her level. She tried to pull away, but the cords held. Sorry. What is her name? I asked. Captain Threvas made a small sound, almost a laugh. Names are for the living, Commander. She is being transported to the stripping worlds for processing. After tomorrow she will not have a name at all. I had heard of the stripping worlds. Every soldier in the coalition had. They were not on any map. They were where the rich and powerful sent their problems. Anyone unlucky enough to end up there did not come back, not really. I looked at the young woman again. She was watching me now with all 3 of her good eyes. There was no hope in them, just a tired sort of waiting, like she had already given up the day she was born. Tell me her name, I said. My voice was very quiet. Threvas sighed. Her name is Elitharin Voss, youngest daughter of the High Matriarch, born without the gift that binds our people. She cannot hear our minds. She cannot speak to us the way we speak to each other. She is hollow. Commander, a defect. By our law she has been one of the unspoken since she was a child. Now she will be removed cleanly, quietly, as is our right. Hollow, the word made my teeth hurt. And the coalition allows this? I asked. The coalition does not interfere with cultural traditions of member species. I stood up slowly. I looked at the cords. On her wrists, I looked at the burn mark. On her skin, I thought about my sister, back on Earth, who had been born deaf. I thought about how my mother had held her and rocked her and never once called her a defect. Then I thought about the old book of Velshari law that they made us memorize. In the Coalition Academy, there was a rule in there, an old one, a rule that had not been used in 400 years because no one was foolish enough or angry enough to use it. Captain Threvis, I said, I invoke the right of champion. The silence in that cargo bay was deeper than any silence I had ever heard. Threvis froze. His 4 eyes went very wide for the first time since I had met him. His smooth, oily face cracked. You cannot, he whispered. I can read the law. Any free citizen of any allied species may step forward as a champion for the condemned, trial by combat. If I win, she walks free. No conditions. No payment owed. She is no longer your property. You are not Velshari. The law says free citizen. It does not say Velshari citizen. Check it. He checked it. I could see his eyes moving as he scanned through the data feed in his mind. His silver skin turned a shade paler when he looked back at me. His face was no longer smooth. It was full of something cold and sharp. Very well, Commander. His voice was tight. You wish to fight for her, then you will fight Krell of the Crimson Spire, our finest blood champion. He has not lost a single duel in his life. He has ended 247 opponents in sanction combat. Tomorrow at dawn you will face him in the stone arena on the ceremonial moon. When he ends you, your name will be removed from human history with our compliments. That is fine, I said. Fine. I said it is fine. Now uncuff her hands. She does not need to be tied up while she waits to find out if she lives or dies. Threvas hesitated, then he flicked his fingers and the glowing cords fell away from her wrists. She did not move. She just stared at me. Her hands stayed in her lap, palms up, like she did not know what to do with them now that they were free. I crouched again. I pulled my canteen off my belt. Real water, not the gray paste the Velshari drank. I held it out to her. Drink, I said slowly. She did not take it. Eletherin, I said the first time her name had ever been spoken kindly in that cargo bay. I think maybe in years. My name is Ezra. I am not going to hurt you. Please drink. Her good hand came up, slow, shaking. She took the canteen. She drank a little. At first, then more. Water ran down her chin and onto her thin gray clothes. When she handed the canteen back, her 3 good eyes were wet. Why, she whispered. Her voice was rough, like a door that had not been opened in years. Because someone should have done it a long time ago, I said, and I am the one standing here. I stood up. I turned to Captain Threvis. I will see you at dawn. I walked out of that cargo bay with my heart pounding so hard I could feel it in my fingers. I had just promised to fight the most successful blood champion in Velshari history. I had just thrown away my career, my command, and most likely my life for a stranger, for a young woman I did not know, from a species that did not like me, on a ship that wanted me gone. I have made worse decisions in my life, but not many. By the time I got back to my own ship, the news had already spread. The story was everywhere. The feeds were burning. With it, human commander invokes dead law. Human commander challenges Velshari Blood champion, human commander has lost. His mind, bets were being placed across half the galaxy on how many seconds I would last in the arena. The popular number was 11. My own colonel, a tough old woman named Rena Vass, called me on the private line. She did not yell, that was worse than yelling. She just sat there on the screen and looked at me for a long time. Then she said one thing. Ezra, tell me you know what you are doing. I do not, I said. She nodded slowly. Good, anyone who said yes to that question would be lying. Try to come back alive, Commander. That is an order. She closed the line. I sat in my small ship cabin for a while. I looked at my hands. I looked at the small picture of my sister taped to the wall above my bunk. She was smiling. In it, she had been 5 years old in that picture, holding a flower she had picked from our mother's garden. She could not hear the bees. She could not hear me telling her not to put it in her mouth. But she had smiled anyway because the sun was warm and her brother was there. I thought about Eleutherion, about her 3 good eyes, about the way she had whispered the word why. I picked up my service knife, the one I had carried for 12 years. I began to sharpen it, slow strokes, steady, the way my old training instructor had taught me when I was 18 and scared and trying to hide it. Dawn was 11 hours away. I did not know if I would be alive to see the next one. But for the first time in a long, long time, I knew exactly why I was still standing. The night before the fight, they let me visit her one more time. The Velshire had moved Alethin to a holding cell near the arena on the ceremonial moon. The cell was small and clean, white walls, no windows, a thin sleeping mat in the corner. They had given her fresh clothing, a simple gray robe. Her hair, which I now realized was a deep silver braid that fell almost to her waist, had been brushed. She was sitting on the edge of the mat. When the guards opened the door, she looked up. When she saw me, her 3 good eyes went wide. You came back, she whispered. I said I would. People do not come back, she said. Not for me. I sat down on the floor across from her. The guards stood outside in the corridor. They could see us through the open door, but they could not hear us if we kept our voices low. Tell me something, I said, about yourself. She looked confused. What do you wish to know? Anything. What was your favorite thing? When you were a child, what did you like? What made you happy? She thought for a long time, so long I began to think she was not going to answer. Then she said in a voice so small I almost did not hear it, birds. Birds. On my homeworld there are small flying creatures. They sing in the morning. I could not hear my mother in my mind the way the others heard her, but I could hear the birds with my ears, the way you hear. I think I used to sit in the garden very early before anyone else woke, and I would listen to them. I pretended they were singing to me, that they knew my name. She paused. Her voice broke just a little. My older sister found me there one morning. She told my mother. My mother said it was proof I was hollow, that I had to fill my emptiness with the songs of small animals because I could not be filled by my own family. After that, they would not let me go to the garden anymore. I felt something cold and hard settle in my chest. How old were you? I asked. 6, she said. I am 24 now. In the years of your species, I think I am about 19. 19 years old. 19 years of being told she was empty. 19 years of being treated like a broken thing. I reached into my pocket. I pulled out a small device, a field recorder. I had used it during the Threshold campaign to capture wildlife sounds on the planets where we had fought, because my sister liked to feel the vibrations through her hands when I sent the recordings home. I pressed a button. A small soft sound came out, the song of a bird, a real Earth bird recorded years ago in a forest on a planet I would never see again. Illyrian's whole body went still. Then very slowly, 3 big tears slid down her silver cheeks. "It is from my home world," I said. "Earth, the bird is called a thrush. My sister loved them." "It is beautiful," she whispered. "You can keep it," I said, "the recorder. After tomorrow, whatever happens." She shook her head fiercely. "No, you will need it to remember when you come back." I smiled. It was a small smile. "All right," I said, "when I come back." She reached up to the front of her robe. With careful fingers she pulled at something, one of her scales, a small, iridescent piece of silver, no bigger than my thumbnail. It came away in her hand. I winced. It must have hurt. She held it out to me. "If you do not come back," she said, "I want one piece of me to have been given freely, not taken, please." I took it. I closed my fingers around it. It was warm. "I will come back, Ilithiri. You do not know that." "No, but I will try." The guard stepped forward. My time was up. I stood. She stood too. For a moment we just looked at each other. Human soldier and a silver girl who had been called Hollow her whole life. "Ezra," she said, "thank you for my name." I walked out of that cell with her scale in my pocket and her birdsong playing in my head. The fight was at dawn. I was ready. I have been in many fights in my life. Some of them on training fields, some of them on real ones. I have fought beside soldiers I loved. I have fought against enemies I respected, but I have never before or since walked into a fight the way I walked into the arena that morning on the ceremonial moon. The arena was old, older than my entire country back on Earth. Round stone walls rose up around a wide sand floor. 2 suns were rising in the pink sky above. The seats were carved into the stone, going up and up, 12,000 of them, and almost every single one was filled. Silver skin, 4 eyes, cold faces. They'd come from across the system to watch a human die. The coalition observers were up in a private box on the highest level. I saw the human delegation among them. Colonel Voss was there. She had flown in overnight. When our eyes met across that huge space, she gave me one tiny nod. That nod meant more to me than any speech. Eleutherian was tied to a tall stone post on the edge of the arena floor. They had bound her wrists again, but her legs were free. They wanted her to watch. Standing up, her 3 good eyes were fixed on me. Her 4th eye, the swollen one, had been cleaned and bandaged. I walked to the center of the sand. My boots sank a little with each step. The crowd was murmuring. The sound was like wind through trees. I knew what they were saying. I did not need to understand the language. Then Krell came in. He came in through the opposite gate, and the crowd stood up to cheer. He was huge, almost 3 m tall. His skin was a darker silver, the color of an old coin. He had 4 arms, and each arm held a different weapon, 2 long curved blades, 1 short stabbing dagger, 1 weighted chain with a heavy stone on the end. His chest was covered in polished chitin armor that gleamed in the morning. Sons. He walked into the center of the arena, like he had been there 100 times before. He stopped in front of me. He looked down. He did not bow. He did not need to. To him, I was already finished. Human, he said. His voice was deep, like rocks grinding together. Why do you do this for a hollow one? She is not hollow, I said, and I am not doing it for her. I am doing it because it is right. He studied me with all 4 eyes. Something moved behind them, maybe surprise, maybe boredom. I could not tell. You will not understand the songs of my blade, he said, but I will sing them for you anyway. The ceremonial drums began to beat. The sound rolled through the stone. Velshari official in the high box raised a long silver staff. He brought it down hard. The match began. Krell moved fast, faster than something his size had any right to move. I felt the wind of his first swing before I saw the blade. I dropped into a roll. Sand stung my cheek. I came up 6 steps away, knife already in my hand. He turned slow and smooth, the way a big animal turns when it is hunting. He came at me again. This time I did not roll. I stepped sideways. The blade cut through the air where my chest had been. I felt the second blade coming low, aimed at my legs. I jumped just barely. The metal whispered past my boot. The crowd was loud now, howling, calling for blood. I did not listen. I let the sound become like ocean waves in the distance. I had a trick I used in fights. I made my world small, just me, just my enemy, just the next breath and the next and the next. Krell pressed forward. He was testing me. I could feel it, reading my movements, looking for the pattern. Every fighter has a pattern. He wanted to find mine so he could break it. So I gave him a fake one. I let him chase me. I moved in a circle, always to the right, 3 times around. 4, I let him get close. I let him think I was tired. He raised the chain to swing it. Just before it came down, I broke the pattern. I went left instead of right. I went under the chain. I came up on his weak side, the side with only 2 arms, and I cut, not deep, just a line across his hip armor, a scratch. Signal. The crowd went quiet. I had drawn first blood. A human had drawn first blood on Krell of the Crimson Spire. Krell stopped moving. He looked down at the small line in his armor. Then he looked at me. And for the first time, I saw something new in his face. He was angry. This is what I had been waiting for. The thing the Velshari did not understand about humans, the thing none of the species in the coalition really understood, is that we are not the strongest, we are not the fastest, we are not the smartest, we do not have psionic gifts or armored skin or 4 arms. What we have is something older, something that came from a small dry place on Earth a very long time ago. We were not built to win quick fights. We were built to outlast. Our ancestors were the hunters who did not give up. They would chase an animal across the plains for hours, days sometimes, until the animal could not run anymore, until even the mighty had to stop and rest. And then we would catch it. We are the species that keeps coming. Krell had been trained for the short fight, the honor fight, the fight where the better warrior wins quickly and cleanly. He had never been in a long fight in his life. He had ended 247 opponents, and not one of them had lasted more than a few minutes. I planned to last all morning. He came at me again. This time he was not testing. This time he wanted to end me, all four arms moving the chain, spinning, the blades cutting the air in patterns that would have killed a slower man. I did not try to block him. I moved. I ducked. I rolled. I came up. I darted away. I cut him again, a small line on his arm. I darted away again. Every time he committed to a big strike, I was already gone. Every time he stopped to breathe, I was 3 steps closer, ready to make him work some more. 5 minutes in, he was breathing hard. The crowd noticed before he did. Cheering had stopped. A confused murmur had taken its place. Their champion was supposed to be done by now. The human should be down. Why was the human still moving? 10 minutes in, Krell had a long cut on his thigh, a slice across his shoulder, and a small wound on his neck. None of them deep, none of them serious, but all of them bleeding. I had a cut across my ribs and another on my forearm. I was bleeding too, but I was not breathing hard. 15 minutes in, I saw the first crack in his discipline. He charged me, a full charge, all weight, no grace. He was going to crush me with size. I waited until the last possible second, then I dropped flat onto my back. He went over me, unable to stop his momentum. I rolled to my feet. Behind him, I pulled the small length of strong cord from my belt. It was monofilament line, almost invisible. We used it for emergency repairs on our ships. It could cut through almost anything. I looped it over his lower right arm. As he turned, I pulled. The cord did its work. Krell stumbled back. His lower arm hung useless. He stared at me. The crowd was completely silent now. "You fight without honor," he said. His voice was rough. "I fight to win," I said, "and to free her. There is no rule in your law that says I have to do it your way." He looked over at Ilitharin, who was watching from the post. Her 3 eyes were locked on me. Her face was very still. Then Krell did something I did not expect. He smiled. "Then come, human," he said. "Sing the rest of your song. I will listen." He came at me one more time, slower now, more careful, 2 arms instead of 4. But still strong, still skilled. It took me another 10 minutes. I will not say it was easy. I bled, I limped, I took a hit across the back that knocked me down. I got up, I always got up. I kept moving, I kept cutting, I kept making him reach for me until his arms grew heavy. In the end, he went to his knees on his own. He looked up at me. His armor was scratched and bloody. His breathing was ragged. "Finish it," he said. I did not. Instead, I walked past him. I walked to the stone post where Ilithirian was tied. I cut the cords with my knife. I caught her as her legs gave out. She was light, so light. She held onto my shoulder with both hands, and I felt her shaking. I turned to face the crowd. 12,000 silver faces, the Velshari official, the high box, the coalition observers in their private gallery, Colonel Voss, the whole watching galaxy. "By the right of champion," I said, my voice carried across the arena, "she walks free." I expected silence. I expected outrage. What I got was Krell behind me, his deep voice carrying across the sand. "The human has won," he announced to his own people. "By our law, by our blood. The Hollow One walks free. Let no one say otherwise." The Velshari official in the box did not move for a long time. Then slowly He lowered the long silver staff. The fight was over. I had won. I do not remember most of the next hour. I remember sitting on the sand while a coalition medic worked on my cuts. Eleutherian kneeling beside me, holding my hand. I remember Colonel Voss arriving from the high box with a face that was half pride and half rage. I remember Krell being carried out on a stretcher, one of his arms still hanging at his side but his head held high. What I remember most clearly is Eleutheri's voice. She kept saying one thing over and over very softly. I am free, I am free, I am free. Like she was trying to teach the words to her own mouth. I closed my hand around the silver scale. In my pocket, I had kept my promise. But our story was not over. It had only just begun. Because winning the fight, I would learn very soon, was the easy part. You would think that winning the fight would have been the end of it, a clean victory, a free woman, a human walking back to his ship with his head held high, maybe a medal pinned on his chest, maybe a stern talk from his commanding officer, and then back to normal duty. That is not how it went. The first sign of trouble came less than an hour after the fight. I was still in the medical bay on the human shuttle. Eleutheri was sitting on a bench across from me. She had refused to leave my side. The medic, a quiet young man named Owen Care, was stitching up the long cut across my ribs. Each pull of the thread felt like a hot wire being dragged through my skin. The shuttle door hissed open. Colonel Voss walked in. Her face was carved from stone. Vance, she said, we have a problem. Which problem are we talking about? Ma'am. All of them, pick one. She handed me data tablet. The screen was full of messages, coalition memos, diplomatic complaints, press releases. The Velshari are filing a formal protest. They are demanding the coalition condemn your actions. They are calling you a barbarian. They are calling Eleutherian a war prize. A what? A war prize, Voss repeated. By their reading of the law, you did not just free her, you took her, you own her now. She is your property. They want it written into the diplomatic record that humans claim alien beings as personal property after combat. I felt sick. Owen paused his stitching. Eleutherian looked up. She did not understand the words exactly, but she understood the tone. Her 3 good eyes moved between us. Ezra, she said quietly, what is wrong? They are trying to twist the law, I said, to make it look like I bought you like a thing. She was quiet for a moment, then she said, I am not a thing. I know that. Then it does not matter what they write. I almost smiled. She did not know yet how much it mattered, how politics could turn a beautiful truth into a small, ugly weapon. Colonel Voss was watching her carefully. Eleutherian, the Velshari are also demanding that you be returned to them. They say the right freed you from their punishment, but it did not free you from their citizenship. They claim they still have legal authority over you. If we hand you back, they will execute you within an hour. Eleutherian did not flinch. She had heard this kind of news her whole life. You will not hand me back, she said. It was not a question. No, Voss said, I will not. That was the moment I knew I liked Colonel Voss more than I had ever liked any officer in my career. But Voss was not finished. There is more. Human command has been receiving pressure from 3 other coalition species to discipline you, Vance. The Tesserans, the Korovai, the Brel, they are nervous, they think if humans can invoke a dead Velshari law to free one alien, what stops humans from invoking other forgotten laws? You have made the older species nervous, Commander. Good, I said. She gave me a long look. I do not disagree, but we need to move. Diplomatic safety on this ceremonial moon will not last past sunset. We need to get her to a place where the Velshari cannot reach, and we need to get you somewhere quiet while the politicians scream at each other. How long do we have? 2 hours, maybe 3. She walked out. Owen finished the last stitch. He patted my arm. All done, sir. Try not to do anything stupid for at least a week. No promises. He smiled and packed up his kit. When he left, Ilithia and I were alone in the small bay. The hum of the shuttle engines was the only sound. She moved over to my bench. She sat down. Closer than I expected. Her shoulder touched mine. I could feel the warmth of her through the thin gray robe. Ezra, she said, I do not know what to do. None of us do, I said. We make it up as we go. My people have decided I do not exist. Your people are angry that you saved me. The coalition does not want me. The stripping worlds want me dead. Where do I go? I thought about it for a long moment. With me, I said, for now if you want to. She turned to look at me with her 3 good eyes, and then we figure out the rest, one day at a time. That is how humans do most things. We do not have a master plan. We just keep moving forward and try not to die. She actually laughed. It was a small, quiet sound, more like a sigh than a real laugh, but it was the first time I had heard her laugh, and it was beautiful. Then I will come with you, she said. For now. We left the ceremonial moon 4 hours later, just as the Velshari were sending a formal request for Ilithirians' return. The colonel had pulled some clever paperwork tricks. By the time the request reached the right desk, we were already in deep space, heading for a neutral station called Marston Point on the edge of the rim. Marston Point was not pretty. It was loud and dirty and full of every species and every problem in the galaxy, but it was independent. The coalition had no real power there. The Velshari had even less. It would be home for a while. The next month was harder than the fight had been. Ilithirian had to learn everything from the beginning. Her people had kept her isolated since she was a child. She did not know how to use most basic technology. She did not know how to cook. She did not know how to shop. She had never bought anything with money before. She had been a princess in name, but a prisoner in fact. She had been served meals in silence. She had been told what to wear. She had been told what to think. Now she had to think for herself. The first time we went to the market on Marston Point, I watched her stand in the middle of a busy walkway for almost 10 minutes, just staring. Bright lights, loud voices, a dozen different species walking past, shouting and bargaining and laughing, smells of food cooking, music snorts from 100 different cultures playing at once. She was overwhelmed. She had 3 good eyes, and all 3 of them were wide. It is too much, she whispered. I know, I said, just breathe. We can leave whenever you want. No, she said. Her hand found mine and held on tight. I want to stay. I want to learn. I just need a minute. We stayed. We walked through the market. Slowly, I showed her how to pick out Fruit, how to bargain for a price, how to count the local currency. She watched. Everything she asked questions about. Everything. By the end of that first afternoon, she was already trying it on her own. By the end of the second week, she could shop better than I could. She learned fast, faster than I had any right to expect. It was like her mind had been dammed up for years, and now the wall had broken and the water was rushing out. She also started asking me to teach her things our people had refused to teach. Her how to read. The Velshari had not let her learn properly because she could not access their psionic library. I taught her the human written language. She picked it up in 3 weeks. Then she demanded to learn 3 more. How to use a computer. Same situation. 3 weeks. She was reading news feeds from across the galaxy. By the end of the month, how to defend herself. That last one made me hesitate. Are you sure? I asked. We were standing in a small training room on the station that I had rented for an hour. She was wearing simple training clothes I had bought her at the market. Her silver braid was tied up behind her head. Yes, she said. Her voice was firm. I do not want to be a thing that things happen to. Not anymore. I want to be able to protect myself. I want to be able to protect you if I have to. I do not need protection. You needed 5 stitches in the medical bay. You needed a medic. You needed me to bring you water for 3 nights. While you slept, you needed me, Ezra. Whether you wish to say it or not. I could not argue with that, so I taught her. We started with breathing, with standing, with balance. Her body was small and thin, but it was quick. Her 3 good eyes gave her a wider field of view than I had. She saw things coming I would have missed. She learned to use that. I taught her hand techniques first. How to make a fist, how to strike with the edge of her palm, how to use her elbows, how to slip out of a wrist grab, how to move her weight. Day by day, week by week, her body changed. The thin, fragile look began to fade. There was muscle now, tightness in her shoulders, strength in her legs. Her 4 eyes still had not healed properly. The damage was old and deep. She would never see out of it again. She wore a soft silver patch over it now, not to hide it but to protect it. One night, about 6 weeks in, we were eating dinner at the small kitchen counter in our cramped station apartment. She was using human silverware now, learning to enjoy human food. She liked bread. She liked apples. She especially liked something called peanut butter, which she said tasted like the closest thing to her childhood. Birds singing in her mouth. She put down her fork. Ezra, she said, I want to ask you something. Anything. When you came into that cargo bay, you did not know me. You did not owe me anything. You could have walked past. You could have signed the papers. You could have gone home and slept that night without ever thinking of me again. Why did you stop? I thought about it. I had been thinking about it a lot, late at night when I could not sleep. My sister, I said, her name is Cora. She was born deaf. On Earth, that is not really a problem. We have technology. We have sign language. We have all kinds of ways to talk to people who cannot hear with their ears. But when she was little, before she learned to sign, sometimes I would see her sitting in our garden all alone, watching the other children play. The other children did not know how to talk to her, so they did not. They left her out. She would just sit there and watch them. And it made me so angry. not at them. They were children, they did not know better, but at the world. At the way the world made her sit there alone when she had so much to say and no one to hear it. I stopped, I took a drink of water, my throat felt tight. When I saw you in that cargo bay, I said, when the captain called you hollow, when he talked about you like you were nothing, I saw my sister in the garden again, sitting alone watching everyone else and being told she did not belong, and I just thought, no, not this time, not another one. I am not walking past another one. Eleutherian was quiet for a long time. Then she got up from her chair, she came around the counter, she sat down next to me, she put her head on my shoulder. We did not say anything for the rest of the meal. We did not need to. 3 days later, the killer came. It was the middle of the night. Our apartment was small, just 2 rooms and a kitchen counter. I was asleep in the main room on the couch. Eleutherian was in the small bedroom we had built for her with curtains and crates. The hallway light was off. The station was quiet at this hour, which on Marston Point meant only a faint hum from the air systems and the distant sound of music from a bar 4 levels down. I heard the door first. Not the front door, the maintenance hatch in the ceiling, a faint scrape. The kind of sound you do not hear unless you have spent years listening for it. I rolled off the couch silently, my hand found my knife under the cushion. I crouched low behind the couch. I waited. A shadow dropped from the ceiling. Quick, quiet Velcherin, the dim light caught the edge of a long, thin blade. He did not see me. He moved straight toward the bedroom curtain, toward Eleutheri. I came up behind him. He turned faster than I expected. The blade flashed. I felt it bite into my shoulder. I felt the burn of something on the metal, poison. I struck back, hit him in the throat, but the burn was already spreading down my arm. My fingers went numb. My knife dropped from my hand. I hit the floor hard. My vision was going gray at the edges. Through the haze, I saw him turn back to the curtain. I tried to shout. My mouth would not work. The curtain moved. Eleutheri stepped out. She was holding the small wooden practice stick I used for our training. Her braid was loose down her back. Her one good eye was wide and clear. Her face was perfectly calm. The killer hesitated. He had been told this would be easy, a weak defective Velcherin girl, a broken thing. He had not been told who she had become. He came at her with the blade fast. Trained, the kind of attack that would have killed her a year ago. She moved like I had taught her. She slipped under the blade. She came up. On his weak side, she brought the wooden stick down on the wrist, holding the weapon. There was a sharp crack. The blade hit the floor. She did not stop. She turned with her hips the way I had shown her, and her elbow came up into the side of his jaw. He staggered back. He went for a smaller blade at his belt. She did not let him reach it. She closed the distance. She was inside his guard. Her hands moved the way mine had moved 100 times in our training room. She struck. She turned. She locked his arm. She used her hip. He hit the floor on his back. The small blade skittered away. He tried to get up. She put her foot on his throat. She looked down at him with one eye. Cold, steady, a young woman who had been told her whole life that she was nothing, standing over a trained killer who had been sent to remind her of it. I'm not a thing that things happen to, she said, quiet, clear. She did not press down. She did not have 2. He stopped moving. She turned to me. The calm broke. Suddenly she was running. She knelt by my side. Her hands were shaking now. Ezra, stay with me. You did it, I whispered. The poison was thick in my veins, but I could still see her face. You did good. Stay with me, please. I'm calling Owen. Stay with me. The room was getting dark. But before it went black, I saw her face. One more time, strong, fierce, mine not. In the way the Velshari had tried to. Right into the law in a better way. In the way of two people who had chosen each other. I closed my eyes. I trusted her to get me to morning. She did. I woke up 40 hours later in a private medical bay on Marston Point. Owen Kerr was sitting in the chair next to my bed reading a book. Eleutherian was asleep on the floor next to him, curled up on a folded blanket like a cat. Her small hand was resting on the edge of my mattress as if she had been holding mine and only let go when sleep finally took her. There he is, Owen said quietly when my eyes opened. Welcome back, sir. How long? I croaked. 2 days, Velshari nerve agent. Nasty stuff. I had to call in a favor from a Tesserin doctor down station. You would not have made it without her. And the killer. Station security has him. He is talking a lot. Turns out the Velshari did not just send him on his own. There were 2 more on backup positions, both arrested. The whole thing was an embarrassment for the Velshari government, which they are now trying very hard to pretend never happened. I tried to sit up. My arm did not work. Right. Easy, Owen said. You will get most of the feeling back in a few days, but that arm took a serious hit, maybe 2 weeks of physical therapy before it is back to normal. I looked down at Eleutherian on the floor. Her face in sleep looked younger. The hard, careful look she usually wore was gone. She just looked like a young woman, tired, with one hand reaching for someone she did not want to lose. How long has she been here? I asked. She has not left, sir, not for 1 minute. She has been sleeping on that floor for 2 nights. I tried to get her to take a bed. She would not. She wanted to be next to you. I felt something in my chest that I did not have a word for. Wake her up gently, I said, please. Owen smiled. He touched her shoulder. She came awake fast. Her one good eye snapped open. She saw me looking at her. The hardness disappeared from her face. She was on her feet in a moment. Ezra, I am okay. She did not say anything. She just leaned forward and put her forehead against mine for a long moment. Her shoulders shook a little, then she pulled back. She was not crying. Fierceness was already coming back into her eye, but for that one moment she had let me see something soft. Now, she said, we need to talk. What she said next changed everything. Again. Over the next few days, while I recovered, Eleutherian told me what she had been thinking. The attack had not surprised her, not really. She had known something would come for her sooner or later. What had surprised her was how easy it had been to deal with. Not easy in the sense of fun, easy in the sense of doable. She had survived. She had protected me. She had done it with what I had taught her in just a few months. If she could do that, she said, then so could others like her. There are more, she said one evening. She was sitting on the edge of my hospital bed eating an apple. Others like me, hollow ones. My people have been doing this for hundreds of years. Ezra, casting out children born without the gift, there must be others alive, somewhere hiding or sold or working, in places no one looks. Maybe, I said, but how would you ever find them? She put down the apple. Her one eye was very serious. I have been thinking about that. Velshari keep records of everyone, even the discarded ones. The exile records exist somewhere in their system. If we could find them, we could find others like me. That information is locked behind their highest security. I know, she said, but not all of their security is in their computers. Some of it is in their people, in gossip, in the servants who polish the floors and overhear conversations, in the merchants who trade in things no one talks about. We do not need to break into their main system. We just need to find the people who already know. I stared at her. The young woman who 6 months ago had not known how to count coins at a market was now planning an intelligence operation against an entire alien empire. This is a big idea, I said. I know, she said. It could get us both killed. I know. Are you sure you want to do this? She looked at me for a long moment. Ezra, I was thrown away because I was different, because something in me did not work the way it was supposed to. They wrote me off. They called me empty. And then a stranger from a different species saw me in a cargo bay and decided I was worth fighting for. He gave me back my name. He taught me to read. He taught me to stand up. He taught me to choose. And now I have all this strength and all this knowledge and all this life that I never thought I would have. If I do not use it to find the others, then what was it all for? I cannot just live for me, not when I know they are out there. I thought about my sister. I thought about the small girl who had sat alone in a garden listening to birds. I thought about the future, about a galaxy where defective children were not thrown away, where being different was not a problem to be removed, where hollow ones might not be hollow at all, just made of a different kind of light. Okay, I said. Let us find them. She smiled. It was the first full real smile I had ever seen her make. Her teeth showed, her one eye lit up, even her bandaged eye seemed to brighten somehow. Thank you, Ezra. Do not thank me, just promise me one thing. What? That whatever happens, wherever this leads, we stay together. We do not go off on our own. We are a team. She put her small hand over mine. Her silver fingers were warm. Always, she said. We left the medical bay the next week. We left Marston Point 2 weeks after that. We took a small ship that I bought with most of my savings, a beat-up little hauler called the Magpie, just big enough for the two of us and our gear. Owen helped us paint the side. Elitharin wanted it to look ordinary. Nothing fancy, nothing that would catch the eye. Colonel Voss came to see us off. She handed me a sealed envelope. What is this? Letters of safe passage to 12 neutral systems signed by me. Use them if you have to. Do not use them more than once each. After that, you are on your own. Ma'am, I do not know how to thank you. Vance, you took on the Velshuri, the Coalition, and 3 other species at once, and you won. Then you did it again. On Marston Point, you are the most reckless soldier I have ever commanded. And you have never once been wrong. She glanced at Elitharin, who was carrying a small box of supplies up the ramp. Take care of her, Vance. She takes care of herself, ma'am. I am just along for the ride. Voss smiled. It was the first time I had ever seen her smile. Good, go. And if you find something big, enough to break their empire, you call me. I will bring friends. We launched the Magpie into the black. That afternoon, the search took us almost 2 years. I cannot tell you about every single stop. There were hundreds. We went to places I had never heard of, frozen worlds with mining camps, bright trading cities under glass domes, slow rim stations that had not been visited by a real ship in decades. We went to bars and markets and dirty back rooms. We followed rumors, we followed names, we followed scraps of paper and bits of overheard conversation. We found the first one on a moon called Trell. Her name was Savel. She was older than a Litherian by maybe 10 years. She had been working as a cleaner in a Velshari merchant house, hiding what she was. When a Litherian showed her the iridescent scale, she still carried the one that matched the scale she had given me long ago. Savel broke. Years of silence came pouring out. She had been thrown out of her family at 12. She had been bounced through 5 owners before escaping. She had taught herself to read by stealing pages of waste paper. When she heard who a Litherian was and what she was trying to do, she cried for a long time. Then she packed a small bag and came with us. The second one we found on a freighter heading to the outer rim, a young Shari called Mir, only 17, working under a fake name as a deckhand. He could hear our minds, he said. He was not deaf, but he could only hear, not speak back. The Gestalt could not include him because he could not contribute. So they had thrown him out. 2. The rule was even more harsh than I had realized. Any difference was unacceptable. The third one, the fourth, the fifth, we found them one by one. Each one had a story. Each one had a name they had not heard spoken kindly in years. Each one came with us. We did not make a base. We could not. The Velshari were watching for any group of exiles forming, so we used a network instead. Safe houses, friends of friends. Each rescued person was placed somewhere safe, sometimes alone, sometimes in small groups of 2 or 3. A Litherian taught them, showed them how to read, how to think, how to defend themselves. By the end of the first year, we had found 27 of them. By the end of the second year, we had 83. And a Litherian had changed. The young woman I had carried out of the cargo bay was gone. In her place was someone else, someone strong, someone careful, someone with eyes that saw very far and a mouth that spoke very plainly. She had grown a hand taller. She wore her silver braid wrapped around her head. Now like a crown, she wore the pat over her bad eye like a badge. Velshari we found began to call her by new name, a name they made up on their own. Eleutherion the Untaken. The one who would not be thrown away. The one who had come back. On the night before we made our final move, she came to me in my small cabin. On the Magpie, I was sitting at the desk, looking over the plan one more time. 83 of our people, 69 in support roles, 14 ready to move with us into the heart of the Velshari home world, plus me. Plus, 85 total, against an empire of billions. We were not going to fight them. We were going to do something stranger. We were going to walk in and speak. Ezra, she said. She sat down on the edge of my bunk. Are you afraid? Yes, I said, always. Why do you do it then? Why have you come this far with me? I thought about it, truly thought. Because once, a long time ago, I made you a promise. I said I would come back. And I have not finished coming back yet. She smiled, the full smile, the one I had only seen a few times. That is a strange answer. I am a strange man. You are my friend, she paused. That word is small for what you are, but I do not have a better one yet. Friend is enough for me, Wiley. She had asked me 6 months ago to give her a shorter name, a nickname I had called it a human thing, something only the people closest to her would use. She had chosen Wiley. She stood up, she kissed me lightly on the forehead the way her people did between family members. Tomorrow, she said, we finish what they started a long time ago, and we begin what comes next. Tomorrow, I agreed. She walked out of my cabin. I sat there for a long time looking at the plans, then I took out the silver scale she had given me in that holding cell on the ceremonial moon. I held it up to the light. After 2 years it still shone, it still felt warm in my fingers. I did not understand how. Maybe it was made of something that did not fade. Maybe my hand kept it warm, maybe both. I put it in my pocket. I went to sleep. Tomorrow, we walked into the crystal court of the Velshari. Tomorrow, the silence broke. The crystal court of the Velshari is the most beautiful place I have ever seen. I want to say that clearly before I tell you what happened there, because the beauty of it is part of why what happened was so terrible and so wonderful at the same time. The court was built inside a single hollowed mountain on the Velshari homeworld. The walls were made of natural crystal, mined from deep in the earth and polished until they shone like ice. Sunlight came in through openings cut high in the dome, and the light bounced from crystal to crystal until the whole hall glowed in soft rainbow colors. The floor was made of dark stone, polished so smooth you could see your face in it. Around the edges of the hall stood tall, thin pillars carved with the names of every high matriarch since the beginning of the Velshari nation. The pillars went up forever, lost in the soft light. In the center of the hall was a raised platform. On the platform was a tall, white throne carved from a single piece of pale stone, and on the throne sat the high matriarch herself. Her name was Veltarana Vass. She was Ilitharian's mother. She was very old, hundreds of years old. By human counting, her silver skin had grown thin and pale. Her 4 eyes were the color of deep water. She wore a robe of white and silver that fell around her like a waterfall. She did not move much. She did not need to. The whole court was bound to her mind. She spoke to her people in thoughts that flowed silently from her throne and filled the chamber. To them, her presence felt like music, like a song that was always playing. To Ilitharian, the song could not reach. We walked in at sunrise. We came in through the main gate, just the two of us and the 14 Velshari Wiley had chosen to bring with her. The other 69 were waiting outside the city in safe positions, just in case. We were not stopped at the gate. That was the first sign that something was different. The guards saw us. They saw the marks on Wiley's face. They saw the silver braid around her head and the patch over her bad eye. They saw the 14 exiles walking behind her, all of them carrying themselves the way she did now, with their heads up and their shoulders straight. The guards looked at us for a long moment, then they stepped aside. One of them, a big, older soldier with a Scarred Jaw watched us pass. As Wiley walked by him, he said something very quiet, just a few words I did not catch them all, but I heard one. Daughter. I looked at Wiley. She did not turn around, but her hand brushed the guard's elbow as she passed, a small acknowledgement, and his face changed. He nodded once slowly, like a man waking from a long sleep. That was the second sign. We walked the long hall toward the throne. Court members stepped aside, some of them silver and tall and proud, some of them old and wise-looking, some of them younger with curious wide eyes. They did not stop us, they watched. The whole great hall went silent, even the air seemed to hold its breath. We stopped at the foot of the platform. Wiley looked up at her mother. Her mother looked down at her. For a long time, neither of them spoke. Then the matriarch sent a thought out. Across the room, I could not hear it, but I could see its effect. The 14 Velshari behind us stiffened. The court members shifted. The sound was strong, powerful, the kind of thought that was meant to push and command. It hit Wiley and slid off her like rain off stone. She did not feel it. She had never been able to feel it. That was the whole point. When the matriarch realized her thought had no power here, something in her ancient face cracked just a little. Wiley spoke out loud. Her voice was clear and steady, and it filled the great hall, because in this place no one ever spoke out loud, and there was no other sound to compete with it. Mother. The matriarch flinched. I have come home, Wiley said, not to ask forgiveness, not to beg for a place at your table. I have come to tell you who I am and to tell you what comes next. The matriarch's thoughts pushed harder. I could see other Velshari in the court, grimacing, holding their heads. Whatever she was sending, it was strong enough to hurt the ones who could feel it. The 14 with us braced themselves and stood firm. They had practiced for this. They had prepared. They had learned how to push back against the Gestalt with their own minds. But Wiley did not need to push back. She had never been touched by it in the first place. She kept speaking. My name is Ilithirin Voss. I'm your youngest daughter. You called me hollow. You marked me for the stripping worlds. You handed me to transport captain and turned your face away. I was 19 years old. I had done nothing to you. My only fault was that I could not hear your mind, and I could not let you hear mine. For that you took my name from me. You took my home. You took every garden where I might have listened to birds. You called this a kindness, purification, a duty. Her voice did not shake. It was not. It was a cruelty. It was a coward's act. You have done it for hundreds of years to children who looked like me, to children whose only difference was a small thing in their birth. You have called us defects so that you would not have to call yourself a mother who killed her own. The court was completely silent now. Even the soft hum of the crystals seemed to have stopped. The matriarch's voice came out at last, out loud, rough, like a tool she had not used in a long time. Daughter, she said, you speak words you do not understand. Our way is older than your small life. Our way protects the harmony of our people. The hollow ones break the song. We must remove them so the rest may live in peace. There is no peace, Wiley said, in throwing your own children away. You are not my child anymore. I never was, mother. You never let me be, but the law you used to send me away, your own law, it said anyone could speak for the condemned, a free citizen. of any species, and one did, a man you have never met from a world you have never visited. He stepped forward. He fought your champion. He won me my freedom by your own rules, and he taught me in the years since what it means to be a person, not a song, not a piece of a gestalt, a person with a name, with a voice. The matriarch's 4 eyes shifted to me. I had not moved. I was standing 2 steps behind Wiley and to her right. My hands were empty. I was wearing a simple gray coat. I did not look like much. I did not feel like much. I felt like I was watching something much bigger than me happen, and I was just lucky to be in the room. This human, the matriarch said slowly, he has poisoned you. He has filled your mind with strange ideas that are not yours. He has used you. No, Wiley said. Her voice was gentle, now almost sad. He has done none of those things. He has done the opposite. He has listened. He has waited. He has asked me what I think, and he has believed me when I told him. That is all. That is the secret of his strange power, Mother. He let me be a person. And once I was a person, I was always going to come home and tell you the truth. She turned away from her mother for a moment. She faced the court. There are others like me, she said. Hundreds of others, some still alive on the stripping worlds, some hiding among other species, some working in the back rooms of merchant houses. Children, workers, old ones who have lived there whole lives in fear of being found. I have spent the last 2 years finding them. Some are here with me now. Some are waiting outside the city. They are not weapons. They are not an army. They are simply your people. They have always been your people. You threw them away, and they did not break. They are stronger now than we ever were before. She paused. And the harmony you protected by removing them, the peace, the song. Look at yourselves, Mother. Look at this court. Look at the empty places in your families, the cousins who were never born to you because their parents were taken, the brothers and sisters of every person in this hall who is missing because they were not perfect. Your harmony is built on silence, not on peace. For the first time, the matriarch had no answer. The court began to murmur out loud, real voices. It was a strange and frightening sound for them. Velshari did not speak out loud in the great hall. They never had, but they were speaking now. I watched the faces around us. I saw an older woman near the front lift her hand to her mouth, tears running down her cheeks. I saw a young man cover his face. I saw a captain of the guard, the same one who had let us in, step away from his post and move closer to the platform. The matriarch felt it. She tried to send another thought out. Larger, louder, a command: arrest them. Take them, silence them. Half the court members near her bowed their heads. The other half did not move. The captain of the guard, the older one, with a scar, stepped onto the first step of the platform. He did not draw his weapon. He just stood there. I have a daughter, he said out loud. His voice was rough and unused. She was taken when she was 5. I was told she had died of fever. I learned 3 years ago that she had been sent to the stripping world. She was 4 when she failed her first Gestalt test. I have not slept a full night since I learned the truth. He looked at the matriarch, not with anger, with something deeper, with grief. My daughter, he said, was not hollow. She just was not what you wanted. He stepped back. He moved to stand behind Wiley. 3 other guards followed him. Then more. Then the court members, one by one. A young noble and older priestess. Merchant lord, a scientist, they walked across the polished stone floor, and they took their places behind a Eleutherian. Vast, some of them were crying, some of them looked stunned, some of them looked like they had been waiting their whole lives for someone to do what she had just done. The matriarch sat very still on her white throne. Her 4 eyes moved across the hall. She saw her own court turning. Behind her own daughter, she saw the silence break in every direction. She closed her eyes. I think in that moment she understood, for the first time, what she had done. Not what one of her enforcers had done. Not what the system had done, what she had done with her own hand, with her own voice, to her own child, to other people's children, to herself. When she opened her eyes again, they were wet. I do not know how to fix this, she said quietly. You do not have to, Wiley said. I will help you. We will all help each other. You will step down. The throne will be held by a council, not a single voice. Every exile who can be found will be invited home. Those who do not wish to come back will be supported wherever they have made their lives. Stripping worlds will be closed forever. Anyone who profited from them will answer to a court of their peers, not in anger and truth. And me, the matriarch whispered. You will live, Wiley said. You will tell your story. You will teach what you did wrong so that no Velshari mother ever does it again. You will spend the rest of your days finding the daughters of others, apologizing to them, listening to them. That will be your work, mother. That is the only way back. The matriarch looked at her for a long time. Then she nodded. She rose slowly from the white throne. She walked down the steps. Her ancient feet were unsteady. She stopped in front of Eleutherian. She looked at her daughter, at the silver braid wrapped like a crown, at the patch over the eye she had broken so long ago by her own order. She lifted her thin hand. She placed it gently against Wiley's cheek. She said one word. Daughter. And Wiley, who had been strong for so long, finally let one tear fall. She did not return the gesture. She did not embrace her mother. There was too much between them for that. Maybe one day, maybe never, but she did not push the hand away either. She just stood there and let her mother touch her cheek and call her by the name she had refused to use for 19 years. The crystal court held its breath. Then very slowly, the silver hand fell. The matriarch turned. She walked alone off the platform and toward the side door where 2 of her own attendants were waiting to lead her into the rest of her life. It took weeks to work out the rest. There were laws to change, people to find, old wounds to open up so that they could be cleaned and closed properly. New council was formed. The exiles began to come home one by small ships and quiet ports and old roads. Some came in joy, some came in fear, most came in a strange mixture of both. I stayed for 2 months. Then I told Wiley it was time for me to go home. She was not surprised. She had known, I think, before I did. You will come back to visit, she said. It was not a question. Every year, I said, more than that if you let me. You are always welcome, Ezra. You are family here now. You always will be. We stood on the same balcony she had stood on when she had first finished her speech in the great hall. The Velshari city was alive below us, lights coming on, sounds of work and laughter and ordinary life. So many new things for a place that had been so silent for so long. I reached into my pocket. I pulled out the silver scale, the one she had given me on the night before the fight. All those years ago, it was still warm. It was still bright. I held it out to her. "This belongs to you," I said. She looked at it. Then she closed my fingers gently back around it. "No," she said, "you earned it that night in that holding cell. You did not know me. You did not owe me anything. And you came back anyway. You said you would come back, and you did, every time. For the rest of your life, you keep it, so that you remember the truth about yourself, that when it mattered, you stopped, you looked, you saw a person where everyone else saw a thing, and you said no." I put the scale back in my pocket. My fingers were trembling a little. "Wiley, yes, you did this, you know that, right? Not me. I just got you out of the cargo bay. The rest, the walking back, the court, the empire, turning around, that was you, all you." She smiled the full smile. "No, Ezra, we did this. You were wrong about one thing when we first met. You told me your people had to choose to see each other because you did not have a gestalt to make you connected. Automatically, you told me it was a sad thing, a weakness, a loneliness, but I think you were wrong. Choosing to see someone is not a weakness. It is the strongest thing there is. The gestalt joined us by force. It tied us together, whether we wanted it or not. And when something was wrong with that link, we threw the child away because it was easier than learning to see her in another way." She turned to look at me. "Your way is harder," she said. "You have to choose every day to see each other, to listen, to stay, to come back. It is harder, but it makes love stronger, because it was not given by accident. It was given by hand. You taught me that. Now I will teach my people, and maybe in 100 years, when no Velshari child is ever thrown away again, we will know how to love the way you do." I could not speak for a moment. "That is the kindest thing anyone has ever said to me, Wiley. Then more kind things should be said to you, Ezra." I left the next morning. I went home to Earth. I saw my sister, Cora. She was an artist now, the best in our town, painting pictures so bright and full of feeling that people came from other cities to buy them. She hugged me at the spaceport for a long time. She signed against my arm, slow and careful, because her hands had grown used to fast conversation in the years I had been away. "You came back," she signed. "I always come back," I signed. "I retired from the service. The coalition gave me a medal I did not really want. The Velshari sent a delegation to my retirement party. The new council, 4 of them, all faces I knew. They brought a gift from Wiley, a small wooden box. Inside the box was a thrush, a small carved bird made of pale wood, painted with very careful colors, no bigger than my palm. On the bottom of it was a note written in human letters, in her slightly uneven hand. It said, "A bird sings and a person is not alone. Thank you for being my song. I built a small house near my sister. I planted a garden. I put a feeder in it for the local birds. They came every morning. Some of them were thrushes. They sang while I drank my coffee. I listened to them with my ears, the way Wiley had listened with hers, the way Cora could not but love to feel through her hands when I recorded them and sent them to her studio. I returned to the Velshari homeworld. Every year, as promised, Wiley was on the council for the first 10 years. Then she stepped down to do other work. She traveled, she taught, she found more of the lost ones. She wrote a book about her life. It was translated into 40 languages and 9 species across most of the known galaxy. Children read it. Schools, mothers cried over it. Fathers gave it to their daughters. In the back of the book, in the dedication page, she wrote 4 words. For Ezra, for coming. I am old now, my hands shake a little. When I write this, my knees are bad, my eyes are not what they were. My sister and her grandchildren take care of me. Mostly, they are good to me. They are good people. But sometimes on quiet mornings when the thrushes are singing, I take the small silver scale out of the wooden box. Where I keep it, I hold it in my palm. It is still warm, it is still bright. After all these years, after all these decades, the scale Ilitharian Voss pressed into my hand on a cold night in a holding cell has not faded. I do not know what it is made of. I think it is made of choosing. I think it is made of every time we decided to keep going. I think it is the small bright piece of a person that does not die when everything else does. The piece they give freely to someone who has chosen to see them, and they seeing makes the giving possible. I close my hand around it. I listen to the birds. I am still here. She is still there. And the song that was never supposed to include us is loud enough now, at last, to be heard across the stars.